Hi, I am conducting my session plan training today for Vicky. Here is Vicky, and my mentor is Megan, who's just here as you see. So let's get started, Vicky. So thank you for attending our training today. The session title that we will be doing training on is the medication authorisation record, steps 1 to 3. So it's just the initial steps of the record, so we've broken the training down a little bit because we have got a 15-minute window to be able to conduct this training today. It is the correct completion of the medication authorisation record, steps 1 to 3. So I will go through a couple of housekeeping things just to commence with. As I said, it's just a 15-minute training, so if in that time you do need to use the toilet, it's just to the right, down the hall. If there is an emergency and we need to evacuate, it's just down the hall, down the stairs and straight out the foyer door. We also need to be mindful of workplace health and safety whenever we're conducting training. So although it's only a short amount of time, it is important that when we're sitting in something, an office chair, that your feet are firmly on the ground and your back is nice and supported. So you're just looking after your own well-being and your back. So I like to start training with a little game, which I know that you're excited about. The purpose is just to energise us before the training, have a little bit of fun before we get into the nitty-gritty of the training. So basically this is a shell game. I'm going to place chocolates under one bowl, jumble them up, and then if you guess the right bowl, then you will get the chocolates inside. So let's go. The session before this, Dasher got her chocolate, so pressure's on. Oh, yeah, excellent. And so that's good because it's attention to what the task that you're doing is, and also gets us focused on the learning that's ahead. So the administration of medication procedure. That was the shell game, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Yes. So the administration of medication is something that is obviously quite an important thing in our industry. In the early learning setting, we are regulated by the ECRU, and there are regulations in place surrounding the administration of medication, in particular Regulation 93 and 92. We need to make sure that we meet those regulations and ensure that we are doing these duties such as administering medication to children in the most safe way possible. So we have things we have procedures and we have forms in place just so we can document for evidence of how we're carrying out these procedures, but also so we can train people to make sure that they're aware of exactly how we need to do it. So I have got a document here that's from the regulatory body, which is just a little bit of a summary around the administration of medication. I've highlighted what the regulations are, which is Regulation 93 is the approved provider or nominated supervisor and family daycare educator must ensure that medication is not administered to a child at a service unless it's authorised and administered in accordance with the requirements of Regulation 95 or 96. Administration of medication to a child authorised when it's recorded in the medication record for the child or when verbal authorisation is given in an emergency. So as far as the medication record that we have for Studio 64 is in line with Regulation 92. So the approved provider and family daycare educator must keep a medication record for each child who has received or will receive medication administered by the service. This record must include authorisation to administer the medication as well as the information that is set out below. So this I will give to you just as a resource. You can use it as a checklist to check off against our medication forms or any medication forms because I'm aware that you are studying at the moment, so it will be a helpful document. I'll also just touch on your learner plan. So I did notice in your learner plan that it did interest you to participate in this training because you are almost at the end of your diploma, and that's something that obviously you will be needing to do. So that's why I actually chose this training for you, because it will give you the knowledge that you will need to have to participate in one of these things that will be part of your job role very shortly. I noticed that you are mainly a kinesthetic learner, so you like to learn by doing. So there is a lot of hands-on bits and pieces within this training, and we will ensure that we try and make it as interactive as possible. Auditory and verbal is also something that I have noticed is a good way that you've learnt before, so there's also those kinds of aspects in the training. So we're now going to go on. Time, please. And talk about the medication administration.
No.
We're going to talk about the administration of medication procedure now. But before we do that, I just want to talk about, sorry, I missed the objective. So the objective of the training that I'm putting in place today, Vicky, is to, by the end of this session, you will be able to accurately implement the first 3 steps of completion of a medication authorisation record. So this is the first training session that we're doing, and there will be further training sessions that will take place, and they will be the following steps, which will be actual administration of medication. Now, when we do that training, if you have attained your diploma, then absolutely I can observe you doing that in a real life situation, but if you haven't at that stage, we can do it in a role modelling situation. With a little dolly or something like that. Okay, so let's now move on to the administration of medication procedure. So I just have that up on the screen here, and I've highlighted the most important parts that are in relation to the training that we're doing today. So I'm just going to read through. So administration of medication procedure, just up on the top there you can see that it's talking about what related policies we have in place, and part of that pre-reading documentation that I gave to you was our medication conditions policy, and then forms that we have as well that are related, and then it's talking about the quality area that it relates to. In this case it's quality area 2, which is health and safety. So the procedure is to be followed when administering medication to a child. So an educator will complete the medication record with the parent to ensure that all details are submitted and correct before leaving the child at the service. Non-prescribed medication should be labelled with a chemist label stating the child's name and dosage to be administered. It needs to be in the original container or packaging, have clear instructions detailing the time of administration and dosage and the method of administration, expiry date. An educator is to take the medication from the parent and store it either in the fridge or in the medication box, which is inaccessible to children. So those are the 3 points that we're focusing on today. Just to give you a little bit of background, so there have been situations in early learning centres in the past where medication has been taken and there's a step missed in the forms, or it may have been a medication that was for a sibling but the parent has then just asked for it to be administered. If we put ourselves in that situation of doing anything like that, then it's just, there's huge ramifications, because we just can't mess around with medication. Medication that is prescribed by a doctor is solely for the child that it's prescribed for. So this is why we have these procedures in place in the form, so there's just no margin of error.
And would this include medicated cream, like for example eczema?
Yep, so we do have different kinds of forms for ones that aren't prescribed by...
That's the long-term form?
Yeah, that's the long-term form, and they are for kind of everyday over-the-counter medications, but part of the policy does state that if there are medications that are over-the-counter, we still require a pharmacist label, just to ensure that we have had direction from an expert in how we are to administer that. So there are directions on the label, but some things like a sorbolene cream, something like that, is very different to a cream that is a topical cream and has some form of medication in it, and then we just need to make sure we're being very careful and compliant in the way that we administer any kind of medication or cream or anything like that. Okay, so now I'm going to go through and talk to you about the medication authorisation record. So are you comfortable with those first 3 steps? Excellent. Okay, so the medication authorisation record basically talks about or shows you where to fill out different places on the form. Now, I believe from your learner profile again that you have had a lot of observation of how this is filled out. So it's a form that you're familiar with, but then of course when you actually have to implement that, it's kind of different situation because you have to be very, very careful in the way that you are carrying out that duty basically. Okay. So here is a copy of the medication record, as you can see. I have pre-filled out a medication record as well, so I'll just go through and just talk you through that. So basically, I've written child's name, Joe Blogg, so the full name needs to go there, the child's full date of birth, the parent's name needs to go under the person administering, the person authorising, sorry. Then if it is, we need to definitely make sure that we tick that yes or no box, and it has to be yes if we're going to administer it, to acknowledge that that is someone that is on the enrolment form. We've written that is for an ear infection, and it is to commence on that date and complete on that date. The name of the medication there, and then the time that the parent wants it to be administered. Then, that's for later, where a staff member fills it out. Then we have, is this authorised for this child? Yes. Are the instructions provided consistent with the doctor? Yes. Is it in the original container? Has to be in the original container, yes. And it's within its use by period, so you're checking the use by date on it. Then it's just signed, and then it's signed by you as well. Okay. So that's basically how it is completed. Now the next part that I want to go on to you with, Victoria, is basically just giving you some guided practice. So I'm going to provide with you, it's just a role model situation, and here's a bottle of medication. I'm going to provide you with a medication authorisation record, and I'd like you to complete that based upon what information you have there.
You can be mum?
Yeah.
Twice a day for 5 days.
You're pretty comfortable filling that out, Victoria? There's no questions that you have with that? Okay. About a minute left, so.
Yeah. That's all. Be my witness, no. Authorized for them? Yes. Instruction provided are consistent? Yes. Original container, yes. Anything that's used by date? Yes. Another card, Chanele. Oh, that's original. Date.
Right, thank you, Victoria. Let me just have a quick look over that now. And okay, that's great, perfect. The only thing is here, where you filled out the dosage, were you just making the assumption that you were also administering the medication? Okay, perfect, that's fine then. We will conduct some training on role modelling further down the track. That will be kind of the next training session will be steps 4 to 21 in the administration procedure. But all of these parts in terms of step 1 to 3 that you completed have been great. We are running a bit short for time now, so I'm going to provide you with the administration of medication procedure quiz sheet, which I'd like you to complete and send back to me so I can give you some feedback, and also a training evaluation form if you wouldn't mind completing that and sending back. So just want to just quickly discuss the objective and just make sure that you feel that we have achieved the objective that we have for our training today. So if you remember, the objective was that you will be able to accurately implement steps 1 to 3, the completion of the medication record. So you feel like you've achieved that objective?
Yes.
If you have any questions in the future or after this training, please let me know. But I just want to thank you very much for attending the training today. Thank you.